Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Can we start? I wish to welcome the members of the media present, both virtually and physically in the Good Hope Chamber, and also the esteemed colleagues, stakeholders. Thank you very much for joining us this morning for the media briefing of the Social Services Cluster. As you will know that Parliament has initiated this program of continuous engagement and interaction with the members of the media and stakeholders in the interest of public accountability to ensure that the work that is happening in these committees, oversight committees, which we call the engines that runs or powers the business of the two houses of Parliament, the National Assembly and National Council of Provinces, they are communicated on ongoing basis to the members of the public. So you are welcome. Today, we have got quite a formidable panel of, would it work? We've got a formidable panel of the chairpersons of oversight committees. From the social services cluster. They will be coming individually to address you, and thereafter, once they are done, we will engage with you in terms of the Q&A. I also wish to recognize Honorable Joe McClure, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Sports, Arts and Culture, present here. The panel of oversight committee chairpersons that will be briefing you today. They are the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy, Honorable Nongosi Mbana. We also have the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation, Honorable Leonard Basson. We also have the Honorable Chairperson of the Select Committee on Social Services in the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Desiree Finis, and then the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements, Honorable Mamoha Noxiavi. Without any waste of time, I'm going to invite the first presentation from the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy, Honorable Mbana.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And good morning, viewers. Good morning, our media. And also good morning, our colleagues. I think I have been introduced. I will just go straight to my presentation without wasting any time. Since I'm representing electricity and energy, first and foremost thing that I think everybody is interested on it, the load shedding and the load reduction, which I will definitely start with it. Yeah, the country has experienced the longest months without load shedding from March to late January 2025, close to about 10 months. Disappointingly, we saw Stage 3 return back of the load shedding. And this was due to several breakdowns at ESCOM power stations, which took longer to repair. But 20 days later, we experienced stage 6 load shedding, mainly caused by, I will say, 5 issues. One is 5 units which has tripped at Amajuma power station. The second one is a unit tripped at Medupi. The third one is 4 units that had tripped at Camden power station. The last one, over 7,000 megawatts that were offline for planned maintenance. Load shedding was suspended on 26th February, but stage 3 was once again implemented on 7 March and suspended again on the 10th March due to a loss of 2,700 megawatts, which include Kubek Unit 2 and 2 Kusile units. Recently, we also experienced stage 2 load shedding. We as the committee are concerned about this backlog or backtracking. However, we should be mindful of the fact that we have aging coal power stations that require constant maintenance. We also need more power to be connected to the grid to bring about energy and security. The new renewable energy program will fill the gap in this regard, whilst we are busy with other new build programs, including the nuclear program. We'll remember that the President of South Africa also made mention of this nuclear program that we are busy with. By October 2024, the 8,433 megawatts has been procured through the renewable energy independent power producer. And with the 6,356 megawatts already supplying to the grid with an additional 2,077 megawatts in the construction phase. In response to the issues of the energy security, the committee recently conducted an oversight visit to Kusile power station. And the reason for that, it is because we had so many challenges and also phone calls and I will say petitions in terms of the Kusile power station. I think that was the sort of a curve on how the committee has learned on how to do with these power stations that are about to be closed because their extension or their service is about to expire. Then by October, okay, let me say in response of that issue of the Kusile of energy security, the committee recently conducted an oversight at Kusile, as I have said, and also New West coal-fired power station, which will be finalized during 2025-2026 financial year. The committee saw the extent of the work being undertaken at the power plant, as well as the malfeasance taking place in the power station by unscrupulous individuals. ESCOM has advised us of the security measures they have put in place to circumvent these matters. The committee was impressed by the power station and happy with the work that ESCOM is doing, the last unit, and bring an additional 800 megawatts to grid. Let me rather state this thing because I've discovered that in the communities, they don't differentiate the load shedding and between the load reduction, which is also a crisis. From us as the committee, we feel that we should do an awareness of telling them what is the difference. Because at the same time, they all say that already there's no electricity, so it is the same. But as the committee, we know that load shedding, it's when ESCOM does not have sufficient generation capacity to meet demand. Load shedding is implemented as last resort to protect the country from the national blackout. That's load shedding. And then coming to load reduction, it's when consumers use more electricity than the equipment can handle. Overloading occurs, which causes damage to equipment. So sometimes equipment may catch on fire or explode. To avoid this, ESCOM monitors the network and implements local load reduction to protect equipment, meaning that the transformers and also the substation as well as people explosion. The integrated resource plan, it is critically in the energy and electricity sector. We have two key policies, namely the integrated resource plan and integrated energy plan. We currently have the IRP 2019. We always abbreviate it, but I've already explained that is the integrated energy plan. So IRP 2019, which is being reviewed, planning, and we understand the public outcry on delays by the department in finalizing these policies is expedited. The department intends to submit the IRP 2025 to the cabinet for approval by the first quarter. As I've said, that we are looking at the financial year, that means the coming one of 2025 and 2026. Now, let me get also to the development of the National Integrated Plan. I will abbreviate it as IEP. It was envisaged in the white paper on the energy policy of Republic of SA in 1998. And in terms of this National Energy Act, the Minister of Energy is mandated to develop and on the annual basis review and publish the IEP in the government gazette. The purpose of doing this is to provide roadmap of the future energy landscape for SA, which guides a future energy infrastructure investment policy development. Then, as I've said, there are two. The integrated resource plan is a sector-specific plan which seeks to implement what is envisaged in the integrated plan. The integrated resource plan deals with solely with SA electricity, which need a process by the requirement for investment in the generation capacity of SA as determined. It aims to provide an indication of the country's electricity demand, how this demand will be met, and what it will cost. Already in SA, I've mentioned that nuclear is also critical to us. The committee will closely monitor the country's nuclear program, including the new nuclear program. The committee also visited Quebec, which we know that Quebec is not far from us, but it was critical for us to know exactly what does this mean, because most of the communities were saying and telling us that they don't think that it is necessary for that because it is dangerous for the communities to be there. As you know that it is between the Saldanha and also Western Cape or Cape Town, I would say so. But the Quebec nuclear power station is being extended for another 20 years. Remember it, their term now has expired, but it was renewed for 20 years because we saw it necessary that it is critical to have it And it is not as dangerous as it was said before. Even ourselves as laymen, we thought that, hey, how can we risk our communities and even ourselves into that nuclear thing, as they know that nuclear is very dangerous. And after the 20 years progress thus far on this is satisfactory, as we saw during our oversight to the power station. That was October 2024. What we recommend in our report is that the committee be provided with a comprehensive financial review of the Quebec Extension Project, including both direct and indirect costs. Yourselves as the media in SA at large would want to maybe know the cost of extension regarding the 2,500 megawatts of the new nuclear build program as per IRP 2019. It's progressing well. Of course, for now, it's estimation that we know about it, but we can say and witness that it's going well. Then I'm going to get into implementation of Electricity Regulation Amendment Act. This act came into effect on 1st January 2025. The act dismantles the monopoly of ESCOM and creates greater competition in the electricity supply. Amongst other things, ESCOM will be competing with the private sector on electricity generation. The Act establishes the Transformation System Operator. We term and abbreviate it as TSO. That body will be formed 5 years from ERA and also NTCSA. Remember, because it's going to be a new body, so it is called NTCSA. And we said to ourselves, now that it is a new thing, we have to also monitor it thoroughly, because we are not sure on how and what is it that they are going to do. But the regulations are there and they have been put forward. And this, the NTCSA is wholly owned subsidiary of ESCOM. And ESCOM operates as an independent entity with its own board. Renewable energy and just energy transition. Even that one, President of South Africa made mention of this one, of the renewable energy and just energy transition. As part of the country committed to clean energy and just energy transition, we will focus on monitoring and overseeing the renewable energy independent power producers. Procurement program and a risk mitigation independent power producers procured since inception of IPPP. It's 141 preferred bidders totaling to 13,422 megawatts were appointed. About 7,361 megawatts is operational from 95 projects, including 2 bigger projects. And then what is critical in this one? This was just to give you a picture of good work that is being done around clean energy that yourselves and the country should be proud of. The committee is aware that the grid capacity in the Cape provinces is a challenge, and we are also aware of that. And that ESCOM will be investing in transition lines in these areas to ensure that there is enough capacity for renewable energy to be added to the grid. The committee will continue to monitor the implementation of the transition developmental plan. Then I will come to electricity pricing. because that was also another challenge that we are facing. Even ourselves, we were skeptical when this pricing came to us, because we understand that most of the people are unemployed, and also communities want some affordable electricity around them. Given the problem of affordability of electricity in the country, the committee called on the ministers, electricity and energy, to review the electricity pricing policy to reflect the country dynamics within the electricity sector in SA. The policy is currently being reviewed to align the policy with the broader electricity market reforms. One of the objectives of the review is to obtain a balance between competitive imperatives, that is affordable electricity tariffs for low-incoming consumers, and cost-reflective electricity tariffs for all the other consumers. The department stated the cabinet approval for the reviewed electricity pricing policy will be in fourth quarter from 2025 to 2026. Legislative, the seventh administration that we are in right now, unless otherwise, we are expecting 5 pieces of legislations. I'm not going to mention them, but in addition to visit Ubek nuclear plant, the decommissioned Komati power plant and Kusile power plant, the committee also carried out oversight visit at the South Nuclear Energy Corporation and the South National Energy Development Institution. The committee is very happy with the work these entities are doing to advance energy research in the country. The committee engaged National Treasury, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, the South African Local Government Association, and ESCOM on the municipal debts challenge. Because whenever you say anything to ESCOM, ESCOM will definitely have to tell you about the high debts that are being owed by municipalities, which is a fact, and which we know that there is that issue that they are facing it with challenges. This engagement was very insightful and fruitful, and highlighted to the need for the system reform in the municipal sector and how all serves. Not just those related to electricity are funded. In this respect, the committee welcomes the review of the white paper on the local government as announced in the State of the Nation address by the President, together with the review of the funding models for municipalities. When you ask the municipalities, why do you have to wait until you have these high debts? They will tell you that funding model doesn't suit them well for them to be able to pay their debts. So that's why the committee also recommend that. The committee also received a briefing on the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan, which forms a part of a series of industrialization master plans aimed at driving South Africa's industrial policy and strategy. The master plan outlines actions needed to create an enabling environment for increased localization in the renewable energy sector. The committee then welcomed the finalization of the SRM as it will drive local industrialization in the renewable energy sector and driving the employment and economic growth also in the country. In the term of the committee, it intends also to do oversight visit focusing on the integrated national electrification program for the solar water heater program and the national transformation. Of course, we understand that as the committee, that there are many ways that the South Africa can benefit out of the electricity that we can utilize. In fact, we've saw the wind, the electricity wind turbines, those ones that are are scary when you look at them as if they are going to just strike you, because when there is wind in South Africa, they are working perfectly. And also, even if you want to use the solar panels, that one also needs some sun. Some heater or sun. So we are aware of those, and we also want to utilize and check which one is the best. But we are aware that we also have areas that also have a water and sea close by, so we can use hydroelectricity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson Mvana. I wish to now invite the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation, Honorable Basson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members of the media and people from the water sector that is present today. Thank you for availing yourself for this important meeting. Over the past 6 months, the Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation has been hard at work. We held 24 meetings, posed 418 verbal questions to the Minister, the Department and relevant entities within the water sector. I may also say that 100% of these questions asked to the Department, the Minister or the entities have been answered. Just to give you a background on how we deal within the Water Portfolio Committee, the member gets 3 questions to ask the Minister or the Department. They answer immediately, and I then ask the member whether he's satisfied with the response. If not, then there will be a follow-up question. So we make sure that we don't get questions that fall through the cracks. I take note of all the questions asked. That's how I know there's 118 questions asked and answered. I may also say that we make sure that we receive our presentations 1 week before a meeting. If we don't receive that 1 week before a meeting, that meeting will not take place. The committee also conducted oversight visits to key sites like the Clem William Dam, where they are currently building or hiring the wall with 13 meters, Theewater Sloof and the Lesotho Highlands scheme that we visited for a week in February this year. Today, I want to speak frankly about 4 pressing issues facing the water sector and the urgent action required to address these issues. Firstly, growing municipal debt to water boards. Municipalities are currently owing water boards to 22 billion rand. It's a 151% increase since 2019, and this figure is continuing to grow on a monthly basis. Many are failing to pay for the water they use, putting the entire water system under threat. The committee made recommendations to National Treasury to consider withholding part of municipalities' equitable share so that we could use that money to pay the water boards so that we can make sure that our water boards do not collapse. And I must just say that if a municipality is owing a water board and 5 other municipalities are paying, and we have a huge amount of money that's outstanding to that water board, and that water board fails to produce clean water, even those municipalities that are paying for their water will not be able to receive any water. So the first tranche of the equitable share was withheld after numerous discussions with National Treasury, where the committee insisted on National Treasury to come up with a resolution. We did not see our way forward without National Treasury, COCTA, and Department of Water and Sanitation come to agreement on how we will deal with municipalities that don't pay for their water. And we cannot put our residents at risk when this water boards are collapsing and they can't get water. Without accountability, the system cannot sustain itself. In addition, we must urgently address the high volume of water losses through leaks throughout the country. When we look at the delays and the cost overruns on infrastructure projects, that is a major problem for the committee. I want to use an example of the major projects like the Lesotho Highland Water Scheme and the Clem-William Dam upgrade that is running over budget and over schedule. The cost of the Lesotho Highland Phase 2 project was estimated in 2014 would cost at 32 billion rand. It escalated to 42 billion in 2023, and the estimated cost now is 53 billion rand. Now, with our oversight, we picked up that is the amount that possibly they would need to complete this project. And these delays and cost increase place an unnecessary burden on our taxpayers. You would ask, they borrow the money outside, what would happen if the cost is this high? The only problem that will arise out of this is that the cost of water per kiloliter will become more expensive at the end of the day. We are calling for better planning, responsible budgeting, and better project execution. Water shortages in Gauteng, I think that is on the table at the moment. We see what happens in Gauteng where people go in days and weeks without water. Water consumption in Gauteng is alarmingly high, averaging at 279 liters per person per day, compared to the global average of 173 liters. This is unsustainable. We urge residents to use water more efficiently and call on municipalities to urgently fix and reduce water losses to protect the integrity of our systems. Approximately 49.5% of treated water is classified as non-revenue water in Gauteng, one of the highest rates in South Africa. Colleagues, we must understand that we cannot just put the burden on the resident to say, you must use less water. The municipalities needs to fix this water. If we talk about 49% of our water is not paid for, those who are paying for that water. So that is an important issue that needs to be dealt with. The Water and Sanitation Indaba 2025 that was held last month, the recent Indaba produced several constructive resolutions to improve the water and sanitation sector. However, resolutions alone are not enough. They must be implemented without any delay. The Department of Water and Sanitation will forever build new dams, costing billions to ratepayers. If COCTA is not coming to the party with solutions how they will assist municipalities to fix water leaks. Currently, we see 41% of our drinking water going down the drain. The committee will monitor progress closely and hold stakeholders accountable to ensure these commitments and results that will have to change our water sector. In conclusion, access to clean water and dignified sanitation is a constitutional right. The challenges we face are not due to a lack of resources or technical ability. They are the result of poor planning, mismanagement, and weak accountability. We must act with urgency, discipline, and strong leadership to fix our water and sanitation system. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Basson. The next presentation comes from the Honorable Chairperson of the Select Committee on Social Services, Honorable Finis.
Fellow committee chairpersons, program director, media houses and journalists, parliament officials supporting the committees and on this briefing, people of South Africa, I greet you all on this fine day. I stand here representing the Select Committee on Social Services, one of the 10 committees in the National Council of Provinces. The Select Committee on Social Services comprises of 11 members of parliament from all 9 provinces in the country. I hail from the largest province in terms of scale and the most sparsely populated province, the Northern Cape. The committee oversees a broad portfolio that includes 3 departments: health, social development, and women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Today, I will provide a brief overview of the work that this committee has undertaken since the establishment of the 7th term of Parliament and its strategic focus for this term, focusing on the 2 implementing departments, health and social development. In terms of health, having played a critical role in the processing of the National Health Insurance Bill, together with its counterpart in the National Assembly in the 6th term of Parliament, the committee has been engaging with the Department of Health on the implementation modalities of the NHI. We recognize that implementing NHI is not an event, but rather a protracted process that will be characterized by leaps forward and possibly temporary setbacks as found in countries that have embarked on a mission of universal health coverage. As such, we understand that for the NHI to be fully in effect, specific systems in the public health system, in the public care system needs to be strengthened. Hence, we have identified strategic priorities for this term. These strategic priorities are centered around advocating for enhanced primary health care services, including mental health, sexual and reproductive health, human resources for this health, and quality health infrastructure in effort not only to prepare for the comprehensive rollout of the NHI, but also for good health outcomes for our constituencies, the healthcare users in the different provinces in this country. This starts with recognizing the importance of prioritizing and strengthening primary health care in the country. As a committee, we have done this through different oversight mechanisms, one of which is going beyond receiving briefings from the National Executive, but also engaging with other relevant stakeholders and role players, including MECs, head of departments, healthcare professionals on the ground, and healthcare users. As a committee, we recognize that more needs to be done by the Department of Health to improve the state of primary health care, and for Parliament in terms of fulfilling its oversight and legislative mandates, while recognizing the scope of the work of the NCOP committees and the limitations thereof. As we know, the provision of quality health care is impossible without well-equipped health facilities. For example, in a recent oversight visit, the committee identified health infrastructure projects as a priority and visited the 3 metropolitan municipalities in Gauteng province. Although we visited the metros, we also visited clinics and hospitals in various areas, including Hammanskraal, Davidton, and Tembisa. The oversight of the infrastructure development in health facilities included health facilities requirements and status regarding upgrades, construction, or refurbishment, project management, including delays in the completion of projects and progress in the building and refurbishing of new hospitals, maintenance of facility infrastructure, including reliance on external service providers and water supply, expenditure of conditional grants, budget cuts, and/or misallocation of funds, and how that affects infrastructure projects and the provision of essential health services. Facilities of healthcare staff, doctors and other hospital staff, implications of infrastructure challenges on the provision of quality healthcare services. Although the Gauteng Department of Health and Wellness shared its commitment to improving the state of public health infrastructure, as evidenced by the establishment of its internal infrastructure unit and the projects it has taken over, we cannot ignore the many challenges. These include the shortage of health facilities in certain catchment areas, overwhelming patient health practitioner ratios due to the number of patients who require healthcare services versus vacancy rates, space constraints in certain hospitals, inadequate rehabilitation services, which lead to multiple readmissions of prolonged stays, and inadequate rollout of electronic patient record system, as well as project budget monitoring and reporting. Given the importance of oversight and its relevance to strengthening the health system, the committee intends to continue this work and visit other rural and peri-urban areas in other provinces. For example, the committee intends to invite provincial health departments to present their infrastructure projects. In terms of social development, we cannot look at health issues in isolation without familiarizing ourselves with and considering welfare services. The work done by the Department of Social Development and its entities, particularly the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, and the National Development Agency, NDA. The first oversight trip at the committee undertook The first oversight visit that the committee undertook to the Cape Winelands District Municipality, Worcester, Wellington, and Paarl, and the City of Cape Town Metropolitan Municipality, Somerset West in the Western Cape. The purpose of the oversight was looked at the implementation of health and social services provided to older persons, the work done by civil society organizations for the community in this critical age group, and the support provided by the social development and the health departments in this regard. This was done by visiting specific centers and health facilities on programs implemented and overseen by the Department of Social Development and Health. The decision to conduct oversight visits in these areas followed a resolution made by the committee to contribute to the legislative process of the Older Persons Amendment Bill. We found that there are best practices and gaps in services provided by non-profit organizations and the government to address matters affecting older persons. According to this Older Persons Amendment Bill, older persons should be provided with quality services and afforded the necessary protection by society, including community-based and residential care facilities. Further, it provides for monitoring and evaluating services for older persons and provisions for the temporary safe care of older persons without a court order. The bill also aims to strengthen implementation and compliance measures and make textual amendments for greater clarity. Another area of importance for the committee is welfare services, including the administration of social security interventions. As reported by SASSA, approximately 28 million beneficiaries benefit from social grants in our country, and over 15 million beneficiaries receive the social relief of the stress grant. This highlights the importance of ensuring that the processing and payments of grants are seamless. However, as we have been reported through the work of the Parliament committees and media, there have been challenges in SASSA, post-bank replacement of the card project, and the committee is keenly watching the process as well as monitoring it as it affects older persons. In terms of women, youth, and people with disabilities, the department will be attending to the following revisions to legislative and other mandates: Women Empowerment and Gender Equality Bill. The proposed bill does not aim to create new anti-gender discrimination legislation or additional mechanisms to enforce existing legislature and policies. The purpose is to support and strengthen the implementation of the applicable legislation, accountable for the elimination of discrimination on the basis of gender, and for empowerment measures to advance women. Promotion and Protection of Persons with Disabilities Act. The objective is to translate the implementation matrix of the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities into a bill. This will enable the domestication of international treaties. South African Youth Development Act. It is intended to facilitate youth development in our country. As a committee, we must make sure we are going to monitor the progress on the above mentioned legislation revisions. In closing, we continue to encourage our departments to fill critical posts. This includes nurses, doctors, specialists, social workers, administrative personnel, and porters. Number 2, strengthen intergovernmental relations by collaborating as the Department of Health and Wellness and Education. For example, in implementing and monitoring sexual and reproductive health interventions for adolescents, and strengthening school health services. In addition, the Department of Social Development should ensure that there are adequate social workers in the provinces who can provide support at healthcare services and in schools. Number 3, have integrated e-health systems across the board, given the advantage of health users and health providers, especially in terms of patient records. Number 4, provide district and community-based care systems that prioritize older persons and persons living with disabilities. Have more awareness campaigns that target young people to empower them to fight unplanned pregnancies, sexual transmitted infections, and substance abuse. As a committee, we are honored that we have been entrusted with this responsibility and are committed to working with the executive, other legislative structures, and stakeholders to pave the way to a better life for all South Africans. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Finis. The last presentation on the committee work comes from the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement, Honorable Seabi, and then we'll take the questions afterwards.
Person of the session, Mr. Moloto Mutapo, colleagues, members of the media, and stakeholders here today, citizens of South Africa, good day. Firstly, let me express my appreciation for the opportunity to be here today to outline the areas of oversight the committee is prioritizing and some of the developments within our portfolio. Oversight and accountability are the bedrock of our constitutional democracy, and our work is centered on ensuring that the executive is fully accountable to the people who employ them and whose money they are responsible for dispensing. With regard to George building collapse, in terms of the report to the portfolio committee by the minister, there were the administrative lapses that contributed to George building collapse, which are regrettable. And the committee has called for a full review of the internal processes within the National Home Builders Registration Council, NHBRC. Officials must be held fully accountable for their role in undermining internal systems. The NHBRC plays a crucial role in protecting the interest of housing consumers and ensuring that builders comply with the prescribed building industry standards as outlined in the Home Building Manual. Lapses within such a crucial body are indefensible and demand urgent consequence management. Whilst the committee welcomed the assurance that some employees of the NHBRC are undergoing disciplinary processes, it emphasized the need for law enforcement agencies to expedite and prosecute the developer who has shown complete disregard for building standards and sought to circumvent the system by initially applying for a single-story building and then amending the application to a multi-story building. Families of the people who perished in the incident must receive the justice they deserve. The committee emphasized to the minister that she must do everything in her power to initiate the process of blacklisting the said contractor. On emergency building fund, the committee has noted various concerns raised by provinces and municipalities following the centralization of procurement through the emergency building fund. The committee was informed that for the 2023-24 financial year, the department spent only 5% of its 476 million emergency housing fund. The department attributed the underspending to various factors, including incomplete and delayed beneficiary lists, which caused procurement delays, lack of a standard operating procedure for emergency housing scattered projects, and steep and inaccessible terrain. The consequences of climate change are increasingly leading to weather-related disasters, as witnessed in KZN, Western Cape, and Eastern Cape. Whilst the committee acknowledged that the department is putting measures in place with provinces and municipalities to remedy the under-expenditure and slow response, it emphasized that communities affected by disasters expect an efficient, speedy, and agile response in times of disaster and distress. The committee will await the final consideration of processes to access the emergency housing fund that will enable municipalities to respond more swiftly. Once reviews have been concluded, the committee will monitor the implementation of the revised processes in relation to the fund. Regarding online housing beneficiary list, the recent oversight visit highlighted the continuing challenge with the management of beneficiary list for housing opportunities. The committee has advocated for an electronic list management system to ensure openness and transparency. The implementation of this online system will ensure that beneficiaries are aware of their position on the waiting list and when they can expect to benefit from Department of Human Settlements programs. Removing the human element from the list management process will strengthen the legitimacy of the process. Regarding blocked housing projects, the committee remains concerned by the number of block projects across the country. It is projected that there are about 271 blocked projects, which not only delay service delivery, but also have financial implications for the fiscus. Infrastructure projects are inherently vulnerable to material price fluctuations, and any delay are unacceptable. The committee is categorical that underperforming contractors must be blacklisted to ensure they are not appointed elsewhere. The continuing appointment of underperforming contractors cannot be tolerated, as it undermines the credibility of the department and its programs. The committee has prioritized oversight of programs to unblock stalled projects and ensure that South Africans benefit from government initiatives. Concerning underspending of grants, the committee remains concerned by the continued underspending of the Urban Settlements Development Grant by metropolitan municipalities. This underspending is concerning in the context of increased migration to cities in search of economic opportunities. The grant was developed to create sustainable and integrated human settlements that enable an improved quality of life. This funding is used to, among other things, increase the number of basic interim services, improve access to public and socio-economic activities, increase the number of serviced sites, provide individual connections, and expand land provision for informal settlement upgrading, subsidized housing, or mixed-use developments. The committee believes that under-expenditure on this critical program must be addressed before funds are reverted to the revenue fund, denying expectant beneficiaries interventions that will improve their lives. It is unacceptable that any municipality returns funds to the National Treasury due to underperformance. The committee will continue to monitor the performance of all grants within the portfolio to ensure optimum utilization. On Kutsong sinkholes, the threat to human lives posed by sinkholes in Kutsong remains a cause for concern. The impact on households and services is dire and requires urgent action from authorities at all levels of government. A multi-layered solution must be found to protect the properties of residents and social infrastructure in the area, the committee emphasized. Whilst the committee acknowledges the cost associated with implementing remedial action, it has emphasized that short and long-term solutions are now more urgent. A substantive contribution must be made by all stakeholders, including mining companies, which have largely contributed to the state of affairs in this area. On Slovo Park challenges, the committee received petition about the plight of the people of Slovo Park in Johannesburg. The committee is gravely concerned that the city of Johannesburg has not moved to address more than 30 years of promises regarding quality human settlements made to the residents. Despite the availability of informal settlement upgrading program, this initiative aims to improve living conditions in formal settlements by providing secure tenure, basic services, and potentially formal housing. The delay is unacceptable, particularly given a court order that was delivered back in 2016. The committee has committed to ensuring that the city complies with the court order by enhancing their approval processes to bring the matter to finality. Furthermore, the committee has called for enhanced collaboration with residents to enable the free flow of information. The residents of Slovo Park and all informal settlement expect this committee to work towards ensuring the protection of their right to dignity. This is a mandate we will push through. With regard to Matlosana Smart City, colleagues will remember that the president in one of his SONA promised South Africans that government will build smart cities. Despite the many challenges within the portfolio, the Matlosana Smart City Initiative could set a standard for future human settlement development. The initiative aims to be a model for urban development, integrating smart mobility, digital e-governance, smart environments, and safety to attract businesses, foster entrepreneurship, create jobs, and drive economic growth. The committee believes the Matlosana Smart City Initiative must be a model for future developments, incorporating advanced technologies, electronic methods, and data-driven insight aimed at building a vibrant and connected city that promotes innovation. The progress made in the development of the smart city so far is commended by the committee and should be encouraged across the board. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairpersons of Portfolio Committees and Select Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the presentations. We will open the floor for questions from the media and from the stakeholders, beginning with the members of the media. Felix, you'll be the first to go. Is there any other hand from members of the media? You will be the second, and then you'll be the third. Just introduce yourself in that order, and then we will take the questions from the stakeholders afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Moloto. Good morning, Jason Felix, News 24. Just a question to Mr. Basson. You spoke of dealing with the debt, with the municipal debt to water boards, and you mentioned, if I remember correctly, that a portion of the equitable share that National Treasury gives the municipality should be taken or should be appropriated and then be paid to Rand Water and to the water boards, whoever else there is. I just wanted to check with you, how viable do you think that is, or financially stable do you think that is, given that we find 60 to 70% of our municipalities in the red, if I can put it that way, in complete dysfunctionality, where ordinary financial controls are not in place, let alone paying large debtors like ESCOM and water boards. So just a question on the financial viability of it. Is that not almost handicapping, or in Afrikaans they say handpootjie, municipalities to ensure that they deliver services instead of just paying the large creditors? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Moloto. My name is Arthur from Heart FM. Mr. Siabi, two questions from my side. First one is regarding the George building collapse. Besides the report that was issued by the Minister of Human Settlements, the Western Cape Police, the provincial government in the Western Cape, the Department of Employment and Labor were also doing their various investigations into the incident. I just want to find out from you, as the committee, don't you think perhaps maybe it's also very important for these institutions to also release their findings in relation to this incident, especially now today marks a year since the incident or disaster happened last year in May. The second question is related to the emergency housing, or perhaps maybe call it building kits. I'm aware of there are other fires that have been reported, especially here in Cape Town, in Joe Slovo. One happened on the 6th of April. The other one happened last week on the 30th of April. The residents of these two informal settlements are yet to receive building kits, because that matter is centralized. It belongs to the Department of Human Settlement nationally. Don't you think perhaps maybe the committee needs to take a look at whether or not maybe they need to decentralize it? It must belong to municipalities in order for these residents to have quick access to these building kits. It's more nearly a month now they're yet to receive these building kits. Just to get your comment regarding those two issues. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, my brother, I did not get your name and
Arthur from Heart FM, sir.
at FM, yes. Lulu,
Good afternoon, Chairpersons. Two questions from me. First, to the Chairperson of Water and Sanitation. The suggestion, it's a follow-up on the equitable share. Is that allowed legislatively for the equitable share to be withheld from municipalities? The second question is to the Chairperson of the Human Settlement on the blacklisting of contractors who are failing to perform their duties. The blacklisting issue has been spoken about for years and years and years. What is it that you think you will do as the committee now to ensure that these contractors are blacklisted? Thanks.
thank you very much. Any other question on the virtual platform from the media? Nothing. Okay. Maybe we can also open to the stakeholders on this round. If there's any questions of clarity or comments. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. It's for Chairperson Finis. You made mention, I think it was the Gender Empowerment Bill that was going to be put forward. We're struggling to understand the need for yet another bill. We're waiting on a very critical bill to be tabled, the VSS bill, which has been since 2013. And the biggest issue is capacitation. So if you can elaborate on why the need for yet another bill to address gender inequality.
Thank you very much. Gentleman at the back, just introduce yourself and did you introduce yourself, ma'am?
Sorry, I didn't. Bronwyn Moore, Community Cohesion, Civil Society, Victim Empowerment.
Thank you very much.
Greetings. This is Vanelo Ndovu, part of community building from ARTLC. So I just, it's probably a question and comment. The reality is all the committees in Parliament have common challenges. A lot of it has to do with constraints on resources. So we obviously, are battling with the issue of capital to do all of these programs. Not only capital, but also human resource. In other words, all the bodies we need to do these things. Now, looking at history, administrations, this is the 7th administration. We are sitting with the same challenges in all the portfolio committees, actually. From administration number 1, now we are on administration number 7. Nothing has changed. The pace has never changed. Same constraints, same issues. We're still sitting with the same townships. The infrastructure is falling apart. No maintenance, because each administration seem to want to do new projects, new things. Nobody wants to do maintenance. And, so perhaps then my comment and question at the same time, what would it take to do something different? Because, we've seen now in different countries, for instance, if you look at Burkina Faso right now, you've got Ibrahim Traoré, who just overnight took the reins of the parliament, and he gives an instruction, things are done. Overnight, no bureaucracy, doesn't take forever. You look at Trump, what he's doing now, he understands, you only have 5 years in administration, in office. You don't have time for bureaucracy, red tapes and things. So he goes out of all these so-called democratic institutions, United Nations, World Trade Organization. He just does his own tariffs and he just does his own declaration. And That's the nature of speed. And I've heard the same comment from, the new cabinet in Botswana, saying the same thing, that, you know what, his challenge is that if he desires to implement something on the ground for the community, it takes 4 years for the responsiveness, the speed of parliament, the speed of the system and the gates that things have to be done. It takes forever. By the time he has to implement, 4 years of his term is up, and then people are saying he hasn't performed. So isn't it about time to actually say, hang on a minute, actually this thing is not working? Not at the speed. The issue here is the speed. What would it take? Because we've got bodies. I mean, come on, Africa has at least 2 billion people all over the world with all special skills working and serving in foreign territories. So we're not lacking expertise that belong to Africa. I mean, even Elon Musk is from here. So what are you talking about, the expertise that we're missing? We've got them globally, right? So what would it take to declare some kind of a state of emergency for a short time to do drastic things outside the box, outside your normal rhetoric, parliament, reporting, do something different? Just even to show and demonstrate that, you know what, it doesn't take parliamentarian, it takes everybody. If you want South Africa to change, it will take all 62 million of us engaged and active and participating and doing the same thing in the same year. So what would it take to engage and mobilize at large scale? Because we've got the technology.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You want to come?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Luto Nkomo from Ilitalabantu. Chair, I'm being frustrated when you speak about infrastructure. I was reading a report that in Gauteng, there are 11 buildings unoccupied, which is belonging to the government. And the government is renting out buildings. But, you know, when you're coming from civic society, you always think about these unoccupied buildings, which is happening in Hebrew, they've been occupied. But I just wanted to pose the questions. What is the parliamentary role when it comes to monitoring and evaluation within government building? Because a civic society, where I'm coming from, Ilitalabantu, born in 1989, been existing for 3 decades, and we are looking for buildings. We are looking for the buildings that the government, when they don't want those buildings, they said, no, they can't renovate them because there's going to be another thing that must be done. How do we get this infrastructure of government that are not being utilized for the sake of the citizens of the country? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think the questions have been sent to refer to all the chairpersons. Or is there any other question that I'm missing? Okay.
Good afternoon, Damaris Kiewicz from the Community Engagement Unit at UWC. I've got 1 question and 2 serious concerns. Parliament, constitutional obligation of oversight. Some communities don't even know who their constituency heads are. And I think my understanding is it should be the role of Parliament to ensure communities are informed. Today's sitting is a witness that civil society is maybe not informed of this crucial, critical briefing session. Electricity, everybody's concerned. Water and sanitation, such a critical part of infrastructure, and especially for our informal settlements. Who from Joe Slovo is here? Who from Danoon is here? How do Parliament ensure communication with civil society becomes a real form according to the Constitution? That we engage. Parliament has become so disconnected from us that we don't even want to come here. It's sad for a country 31 years into democracy that our parliamentarians cannot up their game. I thank God the tax wasn't increased because it's our taxpayers' money. That Aunt Sana that buys a bread or whatever she buys and there's tax on, she pays tax. And Parliament cannot ensure the voice of civil society becomes real. Then we're part of the Open Government Partnership. This was in September 2011. We cannot even fulfill the obligation as a government and open partnerships. Other countries are showing us the way. Kenya is showing us the way. Nigeria. And we fail as partners to ensure we co-create and collaborate around issues that matter for the ordinary person on the street. My request to the portfolio committees of the National Parliament, up your game. You have a critical role to play according to our Constitution. And so many times our Constitution is being failed by politicians. And the bureaucrats get away with it because they take us for fools. And we're not fools, we're educated. But when they need to engage with us, it's almost as if they're doing us a favor because we don't have the political will to ensure that we're partners. So my request today, I didn't come for nothing, is that we up our game collectively so that we have a collective in this country when it comes to fulfilling the role of partnerships and especially for the marginalized people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the chairpersons in accordance with the sequence that they have followed in the presentations. The first chairperson to respond, Honorable Chairperson Van. If you are close to the mic, you can opt to respond from where you are or go to the podium.
Thank you, Chairperson. According to the questions, it's like a comment in terms of the electricity. Understanding that electricity really, it's a crisis in South Africa. But as I have said that we are looking at all means, of course, to look at the green electricity. We are also thinking about using this hydro electricity that I'm talking about. We are also looking at using the solar panels. You know, we used to undermine this issue of solar panels. And in real terms, it was not easy for us to install them. But we have managed to pilot one municipality in terms of putting these solar panels. And the other thing that frustrates us, maybe we have to also make an awareness campaign. When you hear that the cable has been stolen by our kids, our relatives, our uncles in a community of that nature, we will become frustrated. But we keep on. We haven't thrown a towel of not making the awareness. It's worse with a zinyoka, which was still unable to monitor that one and how to deal with them. But we are trying our level best. If you can check what we did last year, when people were crying, when it was said that even those that have stolen the electricity must come forward and will get ushwele and also will be told on how to do and also try to be corrected on what they have done. That was not enough. Remember, it was not a good time. It was a bad time because it was during December holidays. It was towards the Christmas. Then we have to ask ESCOM, please ESCOM, the communities will also be in a problem of not having the electricity during that time. If we can work together, this issue goes together. You know, this issue of water and electricity really, it's services that are supposed not to be queried about. But the copper, when they steal the copper, whilst the electricity is supposed to be generated so as to be able to get water. You just don't know on what exactly to say. Just recently, there were vouchers that were sold by even our brothers and sisters whom are coming from ESCOM in a way. But we cannot say talk about something that is not visible and touchable. We have to make sure that what is it that you put a thief and so as to be able to catch the thief, because it's us, our neighbors, our relatives that are doing this. People in the townships are buying electricity with maybe 3 rand, but they get an electricity of about 3,000 or 300 megawatts. You ask yourself, how is this happening? But I'm sure you have seen with the electricity that we're trying to clean the house, and we would make sure that we visit all these decommissioned power station, because that's another thing, that this period for the power stations is about to be lapsed, and the coal is also another challenge that we get. It's worse with the gas, because we opted for the gas and we discovered that in South Africa, gas is scarce and gas is supposed to be looked at and we check. But as I'm saying that, we will never throw a towel as the committee. We'll make it a point that we utilize every effort that we can be able, but we understand the cries. I am very worried, but I like the comment from the latter speaker in terms of telling us as members on how we oversight these entities and also these departments. Thank you ever so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mbana. Honorable Basson.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there was 2 questions on the equitable share. Now, firstly, I need to say that yes, it's not viable to take equitable share for a long period. The mere fact is that we were sitting in a crisis that municipalities owing 22 billion rand and 2 water boards, Magalies and Vaal Central, they were on the verge of collapse. And we as a committee had to act on that. As members are saying, you know, it's no longer business as usual. So on the 17th of September last year, we invited National Treasury to come and tell us how they're going to resolve the problem so that we could get money out of municipalities to pay the water boards. They first said, well, you know, they cannot do that. And then we sent them back. The committee said, you come back to this committee and you tell us how you're going to do it. We don't want to hear you about the problems that you incur doing that. So on the 19th of November, they came back to say they have found a way of taking the equitable share. So what they do is they get an invoice from the water board, which the municipality needs to pay. They then transfer the amount of the invoice as agreed over to the municipality and tell the municipality to give them proof that they have paid that account. When that has been done, the balance of the equitable share is then paid over to the municipality. So the municipality, out of the equitable share, they pay that water board, National Treasury, Water and Sanitation, and COP make sure that that money has been paid to the water board, and then the balance of the equitable share is then released. The first tranche was done in December. So the first tranche is December taken and paid to the to the water boards, and the second tranche will be done now. 66 municipalities, there will be attachment on their equitable share. Now, we all agree that that is not the right way of doing, but unfortunately now, to make sure that people in South Africa gets quality drinking water, that's the only mechanism to our disposal to do that. So they need to look at new funding model for municipalities to make sure that we can get a sustainable situation where municipalities do pay their bills. I know Eskom's got exactly the same problem, but you can still go without electricity, but you cannot go without water. Water is life, and therefore we must make sure that our municipalities do pay their accounts. And as I've mentioned in my statement earlier, is that even if you get municipalities that do pay their accounts and that water board collapse, those municipalities will also will not have water. So the lady asked whether it's allowed. This is the way National Treasury, COCTA, and Water and Sanitation agreed upon. It's withheld, a portion paid over then by the municipality, and the balance then paid over to the municipalities. So it's not all of the equitable share has been withheld, it's only a portion, and we will continue with that until we get another mechanism how we can get municipalities to pay their water bills to water boards. Then on the maintenance, I do agree that, as mentioned earlier, that we can no longer talk about maintenance, nothing happens. There is agreement now that 8% of municipalities' budget must now go to maintenance of water and sanitation infrastructure. That must be ring-fenced. It's not allowed to be used. And there is currently changes to legislation to make it easier for the Minister of Water and Sanitation to withdraw a water use license from municipalities that is not in a position to maintain the infrastructure and give quality water to communities, and also to make sure that they release quality sewage water into our river systems. So as soon as that is completed, it would be possible then for the minister to withdraw a water license and then hand that over to other entity, maybe a water board or a private entity to run that infrastructure on behalf of the government. I think that is the questions that I received that I can answer at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Basson. Honorable Finis.
Thank you, Chairperson. I received one question in terms of the women empowerment and gender equity bill. This is not the new bill, it's just a revision of this specific bill, especially in terms of what is working according the implementation of this bill and what is not working. And this bill is this revision is to make sure that people who contravene this bill are being held accountable with definite consequences under the constitution as well as the existing legislation. And this purpose of this revision is also to support and strengthen this implementation of this bill. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Finis. The last response is from Honorable Siabi.
Thank you. I agree with Arthur, I guess I'm correct, that other institutions need to release their reports. But we may not force them as of now, because others are saying they're still investigating, like the security agencies, they're still investigating. But the committee has taken a resolution that next month we'll be visiting George Municipality, because we want to have a discussion with them about this building. But yes, we're going to make sure that once we have a sense that other institutions have completed their reports, we'll have a way of encouraging them to release their reports, because the collapse of that building involves a number of departments. There are issues of health and safety. Department of Labor needs to come in. The police must come in, and so on and so on. In my remarks, I acknowledged that people don't receive the services in terms of emergency services as expected. Because once they experience disaster, waiting for a month without receiving assistance, how do we characterize that as an emergency? Like I said, we're given reasons about making sure that beneficiaries are identified and so on. But if you are following our meetings as a portfolio committee, we were not accepting such reasons. And we instructed the minister together with her team to make sure that they deal with this. During our oversight visits, especially when we were in KZN, there was a cry about this thing of decentralization. We then asked the minister. The minister said they have a MINMAC decision to decentralize up to a particular level. So where we're sitting now, it is no longer wholly centralized, but decentralized. But the issue is municipalities and provinces are also expected to raise issues with some resources with regards to disasters. But the promise we got is that MINMAC has taken a decision to decentralize up to a particular level. Blacklisting of contractors, whilst is a noble idea for contractors who are not performing, but yes, I agree, is a tedious process. Because if the Department of Human Settlements wants to blacklist a particular contractor, it is not them who must blacklist. They must go to Treasury for Treasury to blacklist. And the to and fro between this department and Treasury takes long. But at the same time, when we are successful in blacklisting, they still open, they still register companies, a different company in a different name, using different directors. But we said to the minister, we recommended to the minister that she must raise this in their cabinet meetings so that the process of blacklisting becomes expeditious, so that people must then start having hope. Otherwise, you are going to have this person still doing business for the next 12, 24 months, whilst you have submitted the request for blacklisting at Treasury. Yes, Mr. Ndlovu, we agree that there's an infrastructure that is falling apart. And yes, as this government, I think to an extent, we didn't do justice to maintenance. We always want to initiate new projects without maintaining the infrastructure that is there. To me, and this is my personal view, which is controversial, according to me, democracy needs a bit of dictatorship. Because if you don't have that element, it creates a problem. With us, our constitution, which is a model for the world, but somewhere, if you have to follow this constitution, which is a model, other people take advantage. Issue of human rights, somebody invade land, when you want to remove that person, Human Rights Commission comes in, issues of human rights are raised, and so on and so on. So it is something that we need to look at as Parliament, different political parties. But like I say, my personal view is that our democracy, which is so good, needs a bit of dictatorship, but also how we are cultured as the people of South Africa. I'm not convinced that we are at a level where we are patriotic. That is why we are able to demand a clinic and damage a road. We are able to ban a school because we're not getting water. So we're not yet there. I think there must be a program to instill the issue of patriotism so that the way we are cultured, we start to appreciate the little we have and want to build on that. As a portfolio committee, we complained a lot about unoccupied buildings, which some of them, as you know, have been taken over by criminals, other people. You don't know who's staying in here. They steal electricity, they steal water. Ultimately, you experience disasters like fires that happened in the buildings in Gauteng. And we talked to the Department of Human Settlement. We have an entity called HDA, which is able to look at such things. But sometimes we are having challenges because human settlement is a concurrent function. National, provincial, and municipalities, especially metros. You find that we are not moving in the same direction, those three spheres of government. And we are looking at that as a portfolio committee. We said the minister must come back to us. It's like allocating resources, funds, appropriating money to metros. And if they don't spend that money, what do you do as a national? But those are the things we are looking at. Unfortunately, they derail us, but I guess we'll get answers. Yes, constituency work, we're not strong at that. While Parliament is playing a role, but political parties are the ones that are managing those constituencies. Constituency offices are allocated to different political parties, and it is for those political parties to manage them. In most cases, we are let down by the resources. The resources of this country have been depleting for quite some time. So sometimes they limit us to service certain constituencies. But I think in the strategic planning session of the department, this thing was emphasized that we need to improve, because that's what we are about as Parliament, interacting with the constituencies, getting their views, giving feedback. I hope we'll improve on that. And Parliament is looking at how best can we deal with that. Sometimes we get frustrations when you want to do constituency work, especially where you want to do oversight within a particular constituency. People, because they don't understand, they just block you from doing that. Maybe because of political reasons, because in this area, this political party is dominating and you are coming from another political party, they don't see that. Those are the challenges that we need to grapple with as Parliament. But as a portfolio committee, and I take it happens with other committees, once we receive petitions, like we received as Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement, we received a petition from people of Slovo Park. We immediately engaged with them, had a session with them. We immediately convened the City of Johannesburg and the Provincial Department of Human Settlement of Gauteng, so that we get a way forward. And we made certain resolutions, which in our next meetings, we're going to audit how far are we with those resolutions, because we don't just leave it. And this one of Slovo Park in particular is worse, because there's a court ruling that directs what the City of Johannesburg must do with such. And yes, I appreciate the comment and the commitment from our stakeholders that we really need to work as partners to make sure that we realize the development of our country.
Thank you very much, Honorable Siabe. Indeed, Parliament is Parliament because of the people. It exists in order to serve the people of South Africa and the various stakeholders. And that is the reason why, partly why we are having these sessions, not only attended by the members of the media, but by the various stakeholders from various civil society organizations, NGOs, non-profit organizations, the length and breadth of South Africa. We even connect them, not only physically, but also virtually, so that we are able to interact even those that are stationed in the most remotest part of our country. So Parliament exists, that's why part of its constitutional function, which is a cornerstone of its existence, is a public participation. Because there is nothing, no decision that Parliament can claim to pass without the involvement of the people. And the stakeholders in various categories have outlined, they are very critical and part of those that Parliament wants to hear. So we know that it is not a very perfect thing. I don't believe that there's anything that is perfect, but the institution is continuously improving. Chairperson Siabe has just spoken about the issue of constituency offices. They are meant and managed by political parties, members of Parliament, members of Parliament. And it is important, of course, that the various communities must continue to insist that they want to see their public representatives. They must have expectations from their public representatives. The public, they must feel served by their public representatives. So there are constituency offices, the length and breadth of South Africa. We know that there is a challenge that others are stationed where perhaps members of the public cannot reach. But the majority of them are well stationed. Where I come from, the village where I come from, there is one that is within the village at the traditional offices of the traditional council where people can be able to go. But as the chairperson is saying, that is part of the priorities of the 7th Parliament to make sure that the institution improves on that, improves visibility, improves the service. That's why we've got a specially dedicated periods where they are dedicated to constituency work. So you will have 2 weeks, 3 weeks of just constituency work. Members of Parliament go in the length and breadth of South Africa to run and back on programs that they interface with the community members, get their issues. And when they come back, you will see them in the committees. You will see them in the sittings of the House, raising questions, not because of their own interest, but questions that come from villages, townships, concerning service delivery, etc., and demanding responses from members of the executive. Honorable Basson just gave a story of the number of questions, hundreds of questions that were asked thus far to the members of the executive, and that all of them they've been responded to. So when you look at the nature of the questions, you will see that they cover a wide range of issues relating to service delivery. So those are the efforts of the institution. Do we need continuous improvement? Absolutely, yes. But that is a work that is currently taking place. Thank you very much. I think, I'm not sure if there's any, do we still have any questions, or we can safely close the session? I think we agree. Let me thank you, members of the media, our stakeholders, members of the support staff, our guests, and the chairpersons. I was saying to the chairperson that thank you very much for making it possible for availing themselves today. Monday is constituency work, but they also understand that public accountability is part of their constitutional function, and they've taken a break from their constituency work to come and account to the public today through this session, and explain and clarify the work that their committees are doing, which is also very important, because that is what democracy is all about, public accountability, and to present themselves to your good self, to account. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairpersons, for being here, and thank you very much. The session is closed. There is some snacks and drinks next door. We never want you as our friends and stakeholders and media to leave with an empty stomach. So please just grab something next door. And chairpersons, just a group photo. You will just stand where you are seated before you leave. Thank you very much.